Ronald, besides Junior, do you have another child?
Haleigh.
Besides Haleigh and Junior?
Possibly.
Possibly. Meantime, Ron's lawyers furiously fire back at bounty hunter Cobra with this statement, quote, William E. Stobbs, who calls himself Cobra, has personally bonded out of jail 2 women who have previously provided negative information about Ronald Cummings. Amber Brooks, who had a relationship with Ronald, and Amber's friend, Christina Prevat. The act of personally bonding alleged witnesses taints any future testimony that they might provide. Amber Brooks, by the way, is the mother of Ron's alleged 1-year-old disabled son, who we're just learning about. The dramatic twist, the wild cast of characters in this tragic soap opera makes my head spin. But does any of it get us closer to finding little Haleigh? Joining me, Art Harris, investigative journalist, who has broken exclusive after exclusive on his website, artharris.com, The Bald Truth. Art, what is the very latest?
Jane, as you reported, I've got this 911 tape on my website where Mary Brooks, the grandmother of Amber Brooks, who just got bailed out of jail for cocaine possession, was keeping her son, who is Ronald's child. His name is Jordan. He's got microencephaly, which is a brain abnormality, and this is a child that Ronald apparently has been very ambivalent about, had him for a couple of weeks right after they were, I guess they were together, and then they split. Then Amber began raising him, turned him over to her grandmother, Mary Brooks, who I talked to today, and Mary is in love with this child, has been, taking care of him, and at one point Ronald shows up, she tells me, 3-4 months, he's 3 or 4 months old, and says, I'd like my son. She tells me that she gave him the boy, and she was surprised that he brought him back the next day with all his clothes. She's been keeping him ever since.
Now,
and
what does Ron
him.
say about all this? Because, we don't want to jump to the conclusion that this is Ron's son. I have no independent confirmation of this.
Yeah. Well, I've spoken to Amber. She's told me about it. I've spoken to Mary, and this is, quote,
what does Ron say?
I've tried to get to Ron's lawyers, to his mother, and there's no call back.
And we just want to say, we would love to hear from Ron and Ron's attorneys, anybody. They have an open invitation to come on this show, and Misty for that matter, and tell their side, spell it out. We want to hear from you. Now, the grandmother of one of Ron Cummings' ex-girlfriends, as you've been hearing, calls 911. Listen to this stunning exchange.
When Mr. Cummings came through, did he stop at all, or did he just drive through, or?
Well, he just cruised through, and my daughter was coming through, and they passed each other, and she seen him and his new wife.
And what's your name?
Mary Brooks. I'm the great-grandmother.
Okay.
And I have custody of the baby.
Okay.
And I'm very upset about it.
Oh, my gosh, so many questions. First of all, why would Ron want this son if he's ambivalent about the child?
Well, that's a great question, Jane. The grandmother is getting about $500 a month in SSI for raising this disabled child. At the same time, some people think that Ron could use a little image makeover, and perhaps another child in his care, especially a disabled child, would show a real caring father.
And let me just say that given that he's lost his daughter and we don't know where that child is, his heart may have opened up to this child and said, well, you know what, I do have a child right nearby, and now I want to be close to that child. I mean, let's not always ascribe negative motivations. Again, we don't even know for sure if this is his child. That's just the claim of this family. Nevertheless, I think what you're reporting is fascinating. What are the police saying about this? Because obviously, we've heard these allegations that you've reported from Nene claiming that Misty, who is Ron's new wife, who was watching Haleigh when she disappeared, went on a 3-day drug binge just before little Haleigh disappeared. And we can't get Misty's side of the story on this, although we'd like it.
Yeah, I've heard that, not only from Nene. I've interviewed her. I've interviewed Amber. I've interviewed white boy Greg, who had this sort of revenge romance with Misty, who told at least Christina Prevat that she'd gotten into a fight, a physical altercation with Ron, ran away, and then went on this wild weekend. And that leads us to Cobra bailing Nene out of jail along with Amber who took him today back along that path of the weekend.
All right, listen, we got to leave it right there. It is a soap opera, and that means it will continue. We want everybody's side of this story. Everybody's welcome to come on here and tell it. Thank you so much, very much, Art.